Welcome to the Good News Spectacular. I'm your host, Doug Thompson. The Good News Spectacular takes you up close and personal with people and events in the journey we call life, from birth to death and beyond. Sometimes the journey of life is filled with joy, happiness, prosperity, and peace. Other times the journey of life can be filled with pain, anxiety, and fear. God never promised the journey would always be smooth. Quite the contrary. God said there would be difficult times in the journey of life. But for those who choose to believe, God also promised to be with us in the journey. Tonight's show features a special guest. You know her as LuLu Roman from HeeHaw. That's her picture on the screen now. LuLu was in the first HeeHaw show and the last, and most of them in between. Many of you remember LuLu was very funny on HeeHaw. She was physically very large with an equally large and beautiful singing voice. On tonight's show, you're going to hear the amazing story of Lu Roman, her fight to survive, her battle with drugs, and the amazing transition she made to become a member of the family of God and to share her God-given talents for the Lord. Stay tuned. When we come back, the amazing story of LuLu Roman. Welcome back to the Good News Spectacular. I'm Doug Thompson, and we have our special guest on the line with us today, LuLu Roman. And Lu, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, you are so welcome, honey. It's a privilege to get to be with you today.
Well, thank you. We're really looking forward to the interview, and I've read a lot about your story. I checked out your website, and of course I saw you for many, many years on HeeHaw. In case viewers, you don't know who I'm talking to, this is LuLu Roman. You would remember her from the HeeHaw series. She was on almost from the beginning, or was it the beginning, Lu?
I was on the first show and the last show.
Oh, wow. And that's tremendous. And as a matter of fact, HeeHaw is still in reruns now, isn't it?
It is.
We get it up here on the RFD TV. It's still a good show. I remember most of the segments. And Lulu's got a wonderful story that she's kind enough to share with us. She is right now at her home in Tennessee. And Lu, we were talking before we came on air. Is it right now, or almost right now, that your son, your oldest son, 41-year-old son, was born 41 years ago? You told me you were going to text him at the exact minute.
I did.
Did you? Okay, so it just happened.
At 10:40 Central Time.
Good for you. Good for you. I know he'll enjoy that.
And he always knows. He always expects it. He knows it's coming at 10:40.
Oh, that's great. Well, I can remember the birth of our first child, and that's an experience you never forget. And of course, I'm the dad. I had the easy part about it, but the mom doesn't have such an easy part.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and he was born so terribly ill, and they told me he was going to die, you know. And, well, God's doing miracles in my life before I ever gave my heart to Jesus. You know what?
Yeah. He was doing the miracles before you even knew him, wasn't he?
Yep.
That's the way that it works. And Lou's got a story she's going to share with us, and boy, I'm anxious to find out about it. But let me begin with the HeeHaw segment, because how in the world you were working as you were a go-go dancer in the Dallas-Fort Worth area,
yes.
and somehow you wound up on HeeHaw in Nashville. How'd all that come about?
I did. Well, working in the clubs there, I had the opportunity to meet a lot of celebrities, and I met a young boy named Buck.
Buck Owens.
And Buck and I got to be good friends, and throughout the years, we were just great friends. And whenever they put the show together, they had a list of all these characters that they wanted, and they went around and got the people who were most famous in the country music industry. They found Buck in Bakersfield, found Roy in Las Vegas. A couple of the guys were from Canada. Archie Campbell was from Knoxville. And they went to all these people and said, okay, here's what we're doing. We're going to do this show. We want these characters. Do you know any of them? And the list was one gorgeous blonde and one gorgeous brunette, one boy next door type, one girl next door type, one fat dumb man, one fat dumb woman. Buck said, I got you. Girl, she's in Dallas. So this is part of me, you know, being able to tell people, you know, that God's got plans for our lives, because I never dreamed I would ever be any, you know, on television, you know.
Yeah,
I was a hippie kid.
Yeah, I understand. So did you go to Nashville? Did you have to go through some audition with Sam LuLu?
Well, not really an audition. They flew me to Hollywood, and the first person I saw was Carol Burnett. And she said, I think I probably had my mouth gaping when I saw her. She said, "Shut your mouth, child. You're fixing to be one of us."
Oh, good
so
for her.
I was pretty, enamored with all of that anyway. So they just, the best of my recollection, one of the guys behind the camera said, "You're incredible." And I said, "Give me your money and watch me get better, honey." I was fresh out of an orphan's home, So they started to film in Nashville in May of that year. And so I commuted from Dallas to Nashville for, 21 years. I actually moved to Nashville the year we stopped doing HeeHaw. But I moved for my music. But anyway, I was not into country music, okay? I was a hippie kid. And long story short, I had to learn to love the people, and then I learned to love the music.
Well, and you certainly did a good job of that. When you would go to Nashville, we're going to have to take a first break here in just a second, but when we come back, I want to talk to you about the filming work in Nashville, how long that would last when you'd go in and shoot a season's worth of shows. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with Lou Roman. Welcome back to the Good News Spectacular. I'm your host, Doug Thompson. We are visiting with LuLu Roman. And Lou, we were just talking about your experiences with HeeHaw. Of course, you'd been on the show from show number 1 until the last show with only a little bit of interruption in between. And you just had finished telling me that you had, when you would film, you would go from where you were living in Dallas, you'd go to Nashville, and you weren't a country western singer or even really a good appreciation of that music just yet. You had to grow into that by getting to love the people that you were around, and then the music came to you.
Yes.
So when you would go into Nashville and film, would you shoot a whole season's worth at that time?
We did. We shot 13 shows at one time. The thing was, we did it all in, we did 13 at a time of the particular spot that they were doing that time. In other words, they'd go in there, they'd set the set. Every night they'd paint the floor a different color. The next morning they would they'd set up the props and the sets for that particular piece that we were going to do that day. And then we'd run through like 13 of the truck stops, and then we'd change to another set, and then we'd go to 13 of the cornfield, which was just insane because we all had to jump up and down. And there was about 300 of those, so we were jumping up and down for 2 or 3 days, and everybody had really sore legs, and they were not in real good moods,
Yeah.
But it was done like that, and we were one of the first people who went on computer. They actually would ran these things through the computer and grabbed little segments and put the shows together. So we did not see the show until the public saw the show.
Oh, that's interesting. How long would you be in Nashville shooting 13 segments?
Entertainers anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
The crew, goodness, they were there for a couple of months.
Oh. And when you would be in Nashville, would everybody stay at a motel, a hotel together?
Yes, yep. They booked us all at the same hotel. We'd change hotels from time to time. And then if you didn't drive, they'd fly you in, then they'd rent your car. And then you had to make sure that you were at that studio at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I bet. Undoubtedly, when you spend that much time with your fellow actors, then it was like family.
It became family to us. It really did. Yeah, I don't even remember in all those years anybody having an argument or disagreement with each other. I never saw any fights. We just had a great cast. We did. Everybody was so interested in making everybody else look well because we were a family that it was a joy to work on it. It was.
Well, and it certainly appears that way too from the film work and the shows that were done. Who did you become particularly close to during your life on the filming of HeeHaw?
Kathy Baker.
Oh yeah.
The little girl
Wonder Dog
at the end of the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Kathy
beautiful.
and Ganella were my bestest friends. And we got to know everybody pretty well, but as far as, like running buddies, Kathy and I we'd always go to movies and go to eat and, just kind of spend a lot of time with each other while we were there. She had a family and I had a family, and we both had 2 boys, so we'd whine about not getting to see our boys together,
Yeah, yeah. I saw on your website, of course, LuLuRoman.com, that you have pictures of many of the people that you, of course, acted with.
Yeah.
And then I noticed
you get music and pictures and all kinds of goodies there.
Yes, you can. As a matter of fact, you can go to the website. You can order some of your music, can't you?
You can, yes.
And all they got to do is just click down on the website, follow the directions, and they'll be able to place orders, get your music, go to the store,
easy,
any of those things. And of course, I remember your beautiful voice, and I understand now that it is just even more beautiful because you're singing entirely for the Lord now, or almost entirely for the Lord.
Thank you so much, honey.
And
well, I've been truly blessed. I think my voice is stronger than it's ever been. I do.
Well, I can understand that part.
I do.
I noticed with the guests on the show, almost anybody and everybody who was in the entertainment business came through those sets on HeeHaw. You must have got to meet everybody.
We had presidents on there. We had, evangelists on there. We had everybody you can think of, to Jimmy Carter and his brother Billy, who brought Billy Bear in there.
But, Lou, you had quite an experience before you got to HeeHaw. All of us who sat on the other side of the television and look at it in our living rooms, of course, we can see what there is to see there, and that's a wonderful show, and I know you're proud of the work. But there was a whole life for Lou before you ever got to that stage of HeeHaw. Tell me about growing up and the experiences you had there.
It was. Well, I was born in a home for unwed mothers and dropped off in an orphan's home, and I spent my entire childhood in an orphan's home in Dallas. And I was the one who was bullied because I was the fat kid. So I had to learn how to protect myself, and I did that with laughter. God gave me the ability to make a silly little face, and people would just fall down, So, He gave me the ability to protect myself with a bit of reasoning back then, but it was difficult, and I blacked out a lot of years of my life because I didn't have any family at all. I had no concept to any degree of what love was.
I'm going to guess, Lou, that it was also a situation that you would get close to other kids and they would get adopted out and you didn't. So over a period of time, I'm going to guess that trust factor, that it hurt so much to get close to others that you probably didn't get as close to them because they would get adopted and you wouldn't, and that must have been terribly discouraging to you.
It was extremely hurtful and painful, and I still struggle with some of those things today. I do, with acceptance and with rejection, and but I'm more well than I've ever been. Learning to trust in the Lord. But it's still a progression of learning, of trusting, of allowing God to work His plans, for my life.
And He has certainly done that in your life. We're going to take another break here in just a minute, Lou, but viewers, stay tuned, because when we come back, we're going to talk about how Lou made that transition to know the Lord and what she's doing now. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Today's Moment of Wisdom brought to you by the Kansas Auto Racing Museum in Chapman. And now, today's Moment of Wisdom.
Many times in life there are opportunities presented to us, but the opportunities usually come with a number of obstacles. In 1866, an amateur geologist noticed some South African children playing with a glistening rock. He asked the children's mother if he could purchase it. Thinking it was worth nothing, she gave it to him. Later, when he examined it, he discovered that it was a premium 21-carat diamond. When word got out, a Scottish mineralogist named James Gregory was sent to investigate. He reported back that South Africa wasn't suitable for finding diamonds. He speculated that the previous precious discoveries had resulted from ostriches, of all things, eating the gems in distant lands and depositing them in South Africa via their dung. A few days after Gregory's report was made public, an 83-carat diamond was found in the area he had visited. It is known as the Star of South Africa, and it launched the region's first mining operation and what is today the world's largest producer of diamonds. And what about Gregory? His name lives on, but not as he might have wished. In the diamond industry, when someone exhibits bad judgment, it's called pulling a Gregory. If Jesus could turn water into wine and feed 5,000 people with a boy's lunch, think what he can do through you. The question is, what do you see? The opportunity or the obstacles?
Today's Moment of Wisdom brought to you by the Kansas Auto Racing Museum in Chapman.
Welcome back to the Good News Spectacular. I'm Doug Thompson. We are visiting with LuLu Roman, previously from HeeHaw, but a whole life before HeeHaw and a life afterwards. And Lou, I was just asking you as we were on break about what happens with the orphanage, because you didn't get adopted. You were placed there not by your choice, of course, and so your earliest recollection was of the orphanage.
Yeah. Well, you either got adopted, which that didn't happen to me, or you stayed until you graduated. And when you graduated, you were out. So I graduated and jumped out into the world and went crazy. They sent us out to public schools the last 3 years that I was there, so I learned how to do drugs in the public schools. So by the time I got out of the orphan's home, I was already a drug addict.
You were addicted to marijuana and what, meth perhaps, or?
Oh goodness, marijuana, LSD. I got involved with speed, which is method read, which they have a lot of problem with nowadays.
Yeah.
And I've done heroin. I've done everything you can imagine. And God just kept His hand on me. I mean, there was a time I could take 20, 25 hits of acid and just pop them in my mouth and fly.
Oh my goodness.
And never had a bad time. God just protected me and watched me all, through all this. So
He did. There's many.
I'm one of these people you can't really stand in my face and try to tell me God doesn't work miracles today, because I am one.
Oh, I know. I understand that completely. And so some point in time in here, you turned your life over to the Lord. Tell me how that came about.
I did. I had gotten busted twice for possession of dangerous drugs by then. I had my first child, who was born 41 years ago today, and he was addicted to drugs, and they told me he was going to die. And it's the first time I thought about that God those people in that orphan's home shoved down my throat. So I found myself trying to pray and didn't really know what I was doing. I've been so angry for so long, I didn't even want to hear the word God. So it took some time for me to kind of get to the place of where it took years and years and years for me to get to where the place I really trust. And sometimes I still have issues with that. But God just touched that baby. And one day he was horribly ill. The next day they were telling me they didn't know what to say to me. But suddenly this baby was perfectly well.
Oh, praise the Lord.
So I know exactly what that is. I do.
You knew what happened.
So, yes, I did. And the remarkable thing about that was that this happened with my child before I ever gave my heart to Jesus. He was 6 months old whenever I got saved. So when I look back at that, there's no denying that God is there, that He watches, that He knows, and that He works His plans for us. He does.
He absolutely does. He can take every experience, and I can take my own life, and He takes every experience, every stupid mistake I ever made, and He's willing to forgive me. Yep, it turns it for His good. Things that I used for a bad plan, He turns them into a good thing, and it's amazing. He, as the old song goes, He never failed me yet. Failed Him a whole bunch of times, but He's never failed me.
You're right. Me too. Me too. My boy's just on the other phone. Kim's getting to him.
He's calling to say, "Mom, thank you so much," isn't he?
Yes.
Well, we won't be much longer, and I'll get you free to visit with your son, because I know it's a special day, and it's very kind of you to do this. But now what do you do, Lou? What do you do now?
Well,
I know the show's in reruns.
I move around the country. I move around the world, wherever the Lord will send me. I sing in churches. I sing for youth groups. I sing for ladies' conventions. And in the last couple of years now, God's opened the doors for me to do some really different things. I've been doing some things with Roy Clark in some of these big places where they have, thousands and thousands of people. And so I've gotten to be a witness in places that nobody would ever think about setting foot in a church.
Oh, that's great. That's
great. So
great.
it's been awesome. It really has. And to get to sing, goodness, I get to sing all kinds of music now. I do. I don't do opera and I don't do rap.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I've been getting to share. I just did a project with old standards and classics, and Dolly actually did a duet with me on her song, "I Will Always Love You."
Oh.
And they're playing it on WSM radio.
Oh, man, that's
pretty
great.
nice.
You never had music lessons, though, did you?
Never did. Don't read music. Never had a voice lesson. Don't rehearse unless somebody makes me.
Oh, my goodness. You're just, the Lord said, here's a talent I'm giving you, Lou.
He did.
And you're going to use it for Him at some time in your life, and you're using it now.
He absolutely did, yeah.
Oh.
And I'm 67 years old, and the voice is stronger than it's ever been.
Oh, and it sounds it, and it sounds it. And as you look back on your life, you must just be completely amazed at all of the experiences, all of the near misses that you had, and how you can now glorify the Lord through the work that you're doing.
I definitely am, yes. Uh-huh.
And so you had another child, and how old is that child?
Okay, my youngest boy's name is Justin. My oldest boy's name is Damon, and Justin is 37 years old. And he's been married for 8 years, and I still don't have any grandchildren yet.
No grandchildren. Well, maybe it'll still happen.
Yeah, well, yeah, and they really do want to have children. So we're just kind of leaving this in the Lord's hands. I told him, I said, this could be my fault, because if I get a grandbaby, I'm going to want to stay home, and I don't think God's finished with me yet. So,
you know what may very well happen in here?
Yep.
They may ultimately adopt.
uh-huh. Oh, yes.
Wouldn't that be
yeah.
ironic for you?
Talked about that. Yes, it would. Yes.
That would be. Now, the viewers that want to go to your website and order music, LuLuRoman.com, and then they can order your music. I see you've got just multiple discs of it, and they can also get signed photographs from you.
They sure can.
Oh, that's so great. You're taking probably a little bit of break over Thanksgiving and Christmas. Do you have a schedule that you're going to be putting out if people go to the website and they wanted to go somewhere to see you? Is there going to be a schedule you'll put out on the website?
There will be for next year. We've just got a couple of things left for this year. We've got Texas and Tennessee, and we've got a couple of days before Christmas, but this is the time everybody kind of winds down and just gets to have personal time. And
yeah.
It's a nice time, it is.
Well, folks, we have been visiting with LuLu Roman, and you would know her as, of course, LuLu off of HeeHaw. The Lord knows her by an entirely different name.
Yes.
And she's a warrior for the Lord, and we are so thankful to have you on the show, LuLu. Thank you so much for taking time out of a special day in your life to spend it with us. And folks, we'll be back after this break. You have been watching the Good News Spectacular. See you next week. Same time, same station. God bless you.